Little sun here. Yeah, as the waves are crashing in, find a light to guide you in. Bring your armies against me, my love. Infiltrate me with your spies and implicate me in your lies. The world's not out to get you, my love. I know it feels that way sometimes, and you don't need that army by your side. Feel your head with guns and bombs, so take too long, take too long. Mary Jo, don't you know I read the note on your pillow? Was it signed in lipstick or signed in blood? I guess now I'll never know. Correct me now if I'm wrong. Seems bleeding hearts don't last that long. And our last words still echo on it. Honey, now that you're gone, bring your armies against me, my love. Infiltrate me with your spies and implicate me in your lies. The world's not out to get you, my love. I know it feels that way sometimes, and you don't need that army by your side. used to do. She would bring the cups to you, just to make you stay a while, as if you wanted to. So lie down, sleep around, hearts bending now will break. Your light shattering my calm, a life sentence in your arms. Breathe in now, breathe out, a touch that suffocates. Sirens wailing in alarm, a life sentence in your arms. Like a prison cell wall, scratching days down as they pass, not recalling them all. His thoughts, they twist and turn, investing everything in her, and not expecting a return. Will that be good enough for her? So lie down, sleep around, hearts bending now will break. Your light shattering my calm, the life sentence in your arms. Breathe in now, breathe out, a touch that suffocates. Sirens wailing in alarm, the life sentence in your arms.
There's Life Sentence by Epicure from their 2004 classic The Goodbye Girl that reached to number 88 on the ARIA chart. Is that right, Tron?
Yeah, that EP did, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. I'm here with JUAN ALBAN. My name is Matt Malone. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to Hell or High Water here on 99.9 Voice FM. And what was that tune about, mate? Life Sentence. Give us a bit of a brief rundown of that one.
Yeah, so I think that's just about a, being stuck in an abusive relationship, and, not being able to get out. But it could mean a lot of things. I'm playing a show in Tasmania and a guy came up to me and said, that song just speaks to me. I've been struggling with heroin addiction my whole life, and, that sort of, that's the experience for me kind of thing. So I think it's anything that's kind of something you can't get out of, yeah.
And one thing that you did get out of and was Epicure, disbanded in 2010. Tell us a little bit about what happened there. Like, you went through this huge peak period, 2004, 2005, dare I say, 2006-7
Mm.
with Main Street, which was another fantastic record.
Mm.
And then when did it kind of start to kind of decline and reach its conclusion in 2010, and what happened?
Oh, there's no short answer for that. So Main Street wasn't the success the Goodbye Girl was, and that.
It's such a great record, though.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that. It's I know that it didn't get the same Triple J support, and I know that it's funny the things you remember. I remember the Panics released a record around the same time, and I just think they just kind of liked the Panics sound and record better, and they decided they were going to play one of us, and that's who they played.
Yep.
But then we got on a couple other festivals, and so they eventually did add Tightrope Walker to rotation later in the year, and that ended up making the Hottest 100 as well. But kind of felt we'd fallen out of favour there somehow, and I'm not really sure how, but we had.
Yep.
And I mean, I'd made a pretty conscious effort to change the sound of the band on that record, and I've told the story before, it's stupid, but I read a review for a song called Firing Squad, which was on Goodbye Girl, and it said that we would sounded exactly like the band live, which we just toured with.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I found that I was really distressed by that, because even though I'm not trying to, live took us on tour with them, and that was cool, it wasn't a sound I was going for.
Yep.
I think there's a fine line between live and REM, and I was trying to get on the REM sign kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got to Main Street, back then I would be affected by stuff like reviews, it would get to you. So I was like, okay, there's no way that anyone's ever going to compare us to a kind of commercial rock band ever again kind of thing, which is stupid, because, that's kind of part of what we were, do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't fight against that now. I'd just be like, okay, well, you are what you are. There's no point, being ashamed of it. Be proud of what you are.
Mm-hmm.
But so and I was really into, old country. So again, through Dan's influence, Gillian Welsh and Ryan Adams, Ray LaMontagne, the Jayhawks, all that kind of stuff. So I love that kind of music, and Lucinda Williams and that kind of thing. So I think we just, naturally, I just wanted to kind of sound like that. Do you know what I mean? So I really leaned heavily into that, but it wasn't as radio friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And we made that pretty quickly too. That record was out like a year after Goodbye Girl. So when I listen to that now, there's a little bit of filler on there. But so that happened. So we lost a bit of momentum there. Dan, our guitarist, left the band, and I remember we were sitting in the bar at the Hotel Kununurra. We played a festival up in Kununurra, and Dan said he was leaving the band. Which, I don't think we wanted to believe. He said he was going to see out that tour for that record, but then once that was done, he was leaving. The reasons he gave me were that he was having sort of some anxiety issues about playing on stage, or I'm not sure what else kind of thing, which, was fine, but Dan was my best friend, and in many ways still is one of my best friends. So that hurt, do you know what I mean? So I kind of felt like I was losing that kind of ally, and that kind of certain creative kind of ally.
Yeah.
And then he left the band, and he actually started playing with Matheson pretty soon after that, which is another great Ballarat band. And at the time, we were still friends and everything, it seemed a little strange that he could kind of play with Matheson but didn't want to play with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered whether he felt a bit creatively kind of stifled, because Dan's a great songwriter in his own right. He's never released it, but he has a great solo record in him somewhere, because I've heard the songs, and that guy is that could be, he could be huge. Great voice, great presence, great guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. So we started playing with another guitarist, Michael Hubbard, who, incredible guitarist actually, he's pretty revered, plays in the Melbourne scene. But we were paying him, so he was like a session guy. We got along with him great. He was driving up to, Ballarat from Melbourne all the time, but he was never sort of, the rest of us, we never really got paid, we were just everything we got put back in the band, but we were paying Nick for the shows, and probably under what he should have been getting paid, but, and he made huge contributions to Postcards from a Ghost, which was our last record.
Yep.
Probably took us 3 years to get that made, a few stops and starts, but by the time we got that out, and then for me, I feel like that's our best record.
Really? Postcards from the Ghost?
Yeah, and certainly the reviews, you can't base it on reviews, but we had good and bad reviews for the other record, but Postcards got universally great reviews.
Okay.
But by that stage, Triple J had just weren't going to play us anymore, and they're pretty much just you hadn't, the message you were kind of getting was you didn't go to that kind of level that you kind of have to get continuous support.
Wow, okay.
We spent a lot of money making that record. We got into debt making that record. Our manager at the time probably got us further into debt, and then kind of just took off overseas to sort of manage another band. We were kind of left holding a lot of debt.
Okay.
And Heath also left the band at that time. He was having his first child, and just felt like he couldn't kind of do it anymore. And that was, I think, before we started touring the record. So at that moment, and then when it was pretty obvious the record was going to bomb, Mick he was playing with Jen Claw and a few other people, and they could pay him more. So he said, "Look, sorry, but I've got to go where the money is," and that's totally fine. There was no hard feelings there. So very quickly, I felt like it was back to me, Tim, and Dom, and we didn't really have a band anymore. Do you know what I mean? It was, even though we were kind of the three guys who'd been there the whole time. Yeah, we didn't have a band that could tour. So we had a friend of ours, Josh Murphy, play guitar for a little while. Great guitarist, lovely guy, but pretty different stylistically. He's more of a, I don't know, a bit more of a Hendrix kind of vibe, a bit of a Chili Peppers kind of vibe, which is great, but I'm not sure if we ever quite
gelled.
Well, yeah, because we did gel, but it was just like it wasn't quite like it was before, I guess. And that might not have been his fault; it could have been our fault. So I remember being pretty broken up by that, because the band was my family, and I put so much into it. And
Sure.
like, I think I've cried once in the last 20 years, and it was the night that I felt like the band had broken up, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I mean, that all happened, and it felt like I kind of felt like everyone kind of threw their hands up, and I felt like people were coming at me for the money the band owed, kind of thing. So I had lots of mixed feelings about that. Like, I certainly drove it creatively, but it was. We shared in any kind of money we made from it, or I mean, I guess I got more publishing money, but I also put more proportionately back for that kind of thing.
For sure.
So I did kind of feel a little bit abandoned at that time, which is real or imagined. I'm sure part of it was real and part of it was imagined, but I felt pretty alone in that moment. So anyway, the band was had run its course. It was pretty obvious that we weren't going to, and we did a tour with Gomez and a few other things like that, and it was just pretty obvious that the band was we owed money, had no way to pay it back. So then our old manager, Mark Eatot, came back. Sorry, I know this is a long and boring story.
No,
he came back and said, the way we can get out of this is and people weren't coming to shows anymore, was the other thing.
Really?
So, yeah, well, not the way they kind of were, kind of thing.
Even after Postcards came out, the audience kind of...
Postcards were still okay, but then in the year after that or so, we just, we sold out Corova Lounge, 2 dozen times probably, maybe not that many times, but a lot of times, and we played to a crowd of like 60 or 70 people.
Okay. Wow.
And it was pretty obvious then that the wave had broken. And so our old manager came back and said, look, the way you do it is you do a farewell tour, and you do a kind of, not a greatest hits, but a career sort of retrospective, whatever you want to call it, anthology, and he was right, that we did a farewell tour and that we got crowds again, so we started selling out venues again. It was only like 5 or 6, but it was enough to kind of, the revenue from that CD, the shows, people wanted to see the band again, and that kind of, also one of the songs from Postcards got synced on a US TV show, so we got another 20 grand from that, which we didn't find out about until 6 months later, but our old manager who'd taken off overseas took that money, so that's why he stopped chasing us for the debt we had.
Oh, wow.
So all this kind of stuff, so all stuff which is, kind of financial stuff is what ended the band. So we had to end the band basically to get out of Hock, pretty much.
Okay, wow.
And by that stage I was pretty like, it was a lot for me. But, I'm still, Dom and Tim and Dan and Heath are still my best friends in the world, so we came out of it still, on good terms with each other.
Yep.
But it all felt so important at the time, it feels like a whole world, and looking back now, I could have done things a lot differently, but that's just kind of how the band ended. And I miss it, I do miss playing music with those guys. But, it's, there's two sides to it. It's easier doing it solo because, make all the decisions, but also don't have to wait on anybody to do anything. And if it goes wrong, it's just on me. It doesn't really matter. No one else is kind of, disappointed by it. Yeah.
Would you ever get back together and do some more shows?
I would love to, and we've talked about it. But
Okay.
I think me and Dom and Tim would always be up for it. And we did some reunion shows in 2015, which went really well. Again, sold out shows. But some of the other guys, for whatever reason, seem to be reluctant sometimes, and I don't kind of prod too hard because they're my friends, but I'll always be the first one to put my hands up to do that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It doesn't not happen because of me. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I'd love to see that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping it will happen towards the end of the year. Dom's living in Queensland now, but he might be back at the end of the year. But you got to ask everyone. And I think now I kind of feel like unless it's me, Dom, Tim, Dan, and Heath, I kind of don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you kind of have to get 5 people who want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And but we really want to get stuck into talking about your solo work, which has been absolutely fantastic as well. So just to backtrack a little bit for everyone, Epicure were around from 97 to 2010, disbanded, and since then you put out a record in 2013 called Dr. Pelican Goes on Holiday, and obviously the latest one, Resentment Central, that came out this year in late April. What made you want to continue doing music after Epicure disbanded? What was your motivation? Was it just a self-expression, or what was it?
I mean, I'm a songwriter. I write songs. You know, I still get ideas for songs all the time.
Yep.
I wouldn't have referred to myself as a songwriter up until probably just the last year or two. But like,
Okay, wow.
I keep getting the song ideas. You know, so as long as I'm getting the song ideas, I'm going to keep wanting to record them.
Yep.
And I'm kind of often surprised people sort of say, you know, why do you keep doing it? You know, that kind of thing. It's like, well, do I need to? Don't really have to justify it, do I? Like, it's just, you know, it's just something I like to do and I get joy out of, and you know, it feels meaningful where not much else feels that meaningful to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this particular record, Resentment Central, from what I understand, it kind of came out of your experience of living in New York for a couple of years. Is that correct?
A lot of it did, yeah. Some of it was before that, but yeah, probably the last 4 or 5 songs written for it did, yeah.
So when did the genesis, and what was the kind of idea that came about to begin writing for this record, and how did it kind of come to fruition?
Well, there's a song on there called Gold Beach, which
But it was kind of the first single, wasn't it? It came out quite a while ago.
yeah, and again, my manager at the time was like, the album's not finished, but you just release singles now, do you know what I mean? So get a single out. It's like, okay, get a single out. But that song was written just before we moved to the States, just on a road trip up the West Coast we drove from San Francisco up to Seattle. Gold Beach is a beach little town in Oregon. It was just kind of a unplanned stop. It was this weird kind of mist that was all on the coast the whole way. It kind of felt like you were kind of sucked into it. It felt very otherworldly. We got there early and just kind of walked around the town, and I just had this feeling like, you know, you could just stay there. And what would happen if we just stayed here, kind of thing. And I didn't, you know, I think I had the idea for the song, but I hadn't actually had any melodies or anything. You know, I finished the trip, went home, and was just sitting on my couch. You know, when you kind of first get back from being overseas, and you're like, I'm back on my couch at home, kind of thing. And that song came to me. So that was kind of the impetus to start writing again, for like the spark. And you have to kind of like what you're writing. I always say you have to like what you do a little bit more than you hate it, otherwise you won't put it out. So I liked that a little more than I hated it, and that was kind of the spark for that record, yeah.
So where did the name Resentment Central come from, to put the umbrella of all these kind of tracks under?
So I imagine Resentment Central to be this kind of fictional town. Again, I'm kind of a bit of a pop culture person, so I think kind of a Twin Peaks kind of thing. This place where you drive through this mist, and then you're in this town, and then either you can't get away or you don't want to get away, kind of thing. And resentment was this kind of, I mean, again, I think my partner Bonnie, we talked about being resentful and in a joking kind of way, but I was just like, I think outwardly to people that know me, I don't come across as being particularly resentful or anything like that. I'm a pretty light kind of person, but as you get into middle age, it's easy to resent things, and I started to kind of find that to be the kind of narrative I was going to talk about. You know, as I started writing that record when I was about 34, and now I'm 43. So
wow. So you started writing Resentment Central 10 years ago.
Well, I guess
roughly.
I kind of precluded it. So there's a few of the songs on there that were written before Gold Beach, but I didn't know that they were going to be on the record. So Bitter Coward, Man About Town, and Young Lungs were all written probably a year or two before that trip. But I didn't know if they were any good, and they were very different to Dr. Pelican. So in the end, I recorded them, and I think they as good as anything else on there. So, but those had that little bit of that theme, that kind of you're not a kid anymore. You're in your 30s. Things aren't as bright and rosy as you thought they would be, or your life is different than you thought it would be. Even though my life is always, I didn't have a bad life at that time. Do you know what I mean? At 35, you're not over it. You can argue that at 43 you are, but at 35 I wasn't. But already I was kind of thinking towards that. Do you know what I mean? So, Bitter Coward is the same thing. Man About Town, that could apply, and it probably did in my head apply to any number of my peers from Ballarat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was a man about town, and I meant what I said, and I wasn't fooling around, but things are different now, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? You're not the man about town anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Young Lungs, again, like, it's a song about, observing someone who has their life ahead of them where you don't, kind of thing. So anyway, the whole record, had that kind of resentment kind of theme, and then I started imagining this place, Resentment Central, which is this kind of this town, and these songs are about, these characters that live there.
So what do you have resentments about in particular at this point of your life, moving into your mid-age, I guess, as it were?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess, I don't know, like there's resentment is the right word, but there's mixed blessings about Epicure having the success it did. and then after that. So,
Yep.
there's a time there where you feel like you're doing what you should be doing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you're playing shows, you're recording records, you're touring,
Mhm.
and people are enjoying it and appreciating it. And so if you have that brief moment, it's a curse and a blessing. So the blessing is that I got to experience that thing I always wanted to, where you have people lining up to get into your show and like know your songs and sing them back to you and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And that kind of goes away, and you don't have that anymore, and you're quite aware that your life isn't going to be like that anymore.
Mhm.
You're going to work a job you don't like, so you don't starve, and you're not homeless, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So there's the curse of it, where you kind of know what you had. You can't get it back, and you won't be able to get it back, but you'd still probably prefer to have had it than not had it at all, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So if I had to, such resentments, but that's how I feel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're going to play a track from the new record, Resentment Central. Came out in late April of this year. I know you said before the program started, you reckon it's the best thing that you've ever done, and I kind of tend to agree. I really love this record. I think it is one of the best, if not the best thing you've ever done. Every track on it is fantastic. I think Quitters is great, Time Machine's great, Man About Town. They're all really great songs, and you can really feel and hear the maturity in the songwriting and the storytelling and the analogies that you're using. It's kind of like how, I love The Salesman, but there's a part of me that kind of loves Underminers even a little bit more because of the development that Hap found his maturity with those records, especially Heart Part of Your Mind. So in a way, I kind of feel like this is your heart part of your mind. This kind of reflective, but it has this cutting kind of sense of kind of dark humour that runs through a lot of these tracks as well. And I assume that this track, City That Sleeps, which I think was a single and is a single, and is one of the highlights of the record, I assume that this has some sort of reference to your time in New York.
It does, yeah. Yeah. Not terribly subtle, is it? I wrote this when we first moved to New York. We were living in this sort of brownstone apartment in Bed-Stuy, and I'd romanticised the idea of living in New York City since I was, a teenager kind of thing. And I remember we kind of arrived in, it would have been late spring. It's quite hot there still, do you know what I mean? And you're on the third floor of this brownstone apartment, you've got the window open, and Bed-Stuy is, it's in Brooklyn. It's not, it's a rough part of town, but it's certainly not, it's not the touristy part of New York, if you know what I mean. So when you first get there, you're kind of told, we were subletting, like, be a good neighbour, like whatever you hear kind of happening on the street or with your neighbours, you don't call the cops. It's just not what you do. And so, like, we want to be good neighbours, so we've kind of got our window open because it's really hot. We're on this third floor apartment, and there's just like this terrifying shit happening outside your window, to us anyway. We're in our fairly sheltered lives, do you know what I mean? And so I remember in that moment, it's like, it's really just a play on, did we really want to be at the city that doesn't sleep? Because right now I'd like to be in one which is just a bit kind of more chill, because this is a little bit terrifying, do you know what I mean? And so it's about that, and it's about us sort of finding a new life and pretending to be people we weren't, and we felt very differently about it at the end of our time in New York. It felt like home at the end of that, but initially it was quite a, knowing you're not going back for a while is a different feeling to going there as a tourist, yeah.
For sure. Alright, let's give it a spin. This is JUAN ALBAN from his new record Resentment Central with City That Sleeps.
Don't stand out. If we think that they're on to us, we'll just skip town. You be Louise and I'll be Towns. I know I took some convincing, but I'm coming around. We can live a lie, never let the truth be told. We could go from town to town, lay low till we figure it out. We could build an army, charge it to the company. We could lie awake for weeks, or we could find a city and sleep. if we have to save face, we'll say that's what we'd always planned. That is crazy to say out loud. Just how quickly some days and one days can turn into now. We can live a lie, you know. Never let the truth be told. We can go from town to town, laying alone till we figure it out. We could build an army, charging to the company. We could lie awake for weeks, so we could find a city that sleeps. Settle down, surrender at a million miles an hour. Get out with what's left of me. The coldest grave with the freshest flowers. I could ride these thunder clouds, rain down till I'm someplace else. But I'm riding my time machine, faced out in memory. Black out and you're next to me, and we just hang out till breakdown comes around. a million points of light. I'm riding my time machine, blissed out in the reverie. I got the top down and I'm running free, and we just hang out till the breakdown comes around. It's hard to bring myself to care all that much about it. It's so hard not to know, it's to come to the wholehearted end times, wholehearted end times, wholehearted end times. I can see a million points of light. Riding my time machine, face down in the memory. I got the top down and I'm running free, and we just hang out till the breakdown comes around. Time machine, blissed out in the reverie. I got the top down and I'm running free, and we just hang out till the breakdown comes around. Riding my time machine, riding my time machine. Riding my time machine, riding my time machine, riding my time machine, riding my time machine.
Time Machine by JUAN ALBAN from his brand new record Resentment Central. And I've had JUAN in here in the studio from 8 o'clock, and he must be exhausted, mate. We've been doing a lot of talking, we've been doing a lot of interviewing, a lot of reminiscing.
Matt, I could talk about myself for another 12 hours. You just keep them coming.
We're going to play a brand new track from you, mate. This is called Call Me Sentimental, and this was I believe, an outtake from the record Resentment Central. Why didn't this one get included on the record?
Because I wrote Time Machine, City That Sleeps and Quitters, kind of, and I kind of thought they trumped it a little bit. But if also, you know, when you're making a vinyl record, they tell you don't exceed this kind of length or it'll make your record sound shit. So if I could have 11 songs on it, this would have been on it.
Okay.
And I thought the vibe was a little bit different to this. Like, I think it could work on the record, but it's a bit more rocking than everything else.
Okay.
I still really like it though, so I'm going to release it as a standalone single. I still think it's a great song. It just didn't quite fit on what the record ended up being.
So when's it coming out?
A couple of weeks, yep, but you're the first one to play it anywhere, or probably hear it finished, really, apart from the people who played on it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the world debut
It is.
of a JUAN ALBAN song here on Hell or High Water called Call Me Sentimental. And where can we find all of your tunes, mate? Is Bandcamp the best way to...
It's not actually on Bandcamp, so
Okay.
it's, I guess all the streaming services, but Waterfront Records, which is through MGM Distribution, they sort of
Okay.
sell all my physical media. There's, records and CDs and cassettes and stuff. It will go to Bandcamp eventually, but MGM I've been with, they've put out my music for 20 odd years, so Waterfront Records, yeah.
So Waterfront Records, what's the website?
I have to look at,
Yeah.
it's through MGM distribution, but yeah, sure.
So waterfrontrecords.com, if you look it up on there, and you can go to catalogue. I just don't want to make it too complicated for listeners if they want to pick the record up.
Yeah, I would just visit maybe my socials. So if you look at Resentment Central on Instagram or Facebook as JUAN ALBAN,
JUAN ALBAN,
there's
yeah.
links there to the shop. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So here's the world debut of a brand new JUAN ALBAN track, Call Me Sentimental, an outtake from his fantastic record Resentment Central that you can pick up. Just jump onto his socials, JUAN ALBAN, so JUAN ALBAN, ALBAN. Go on there and pick it up on cassette, vinyl, CD and digital download. Here it is, Call Me Sentimental, JUAN ALBAN.
Eyes waiting down by the web we wove. We were dressed in mourning, head to toe. Later we sprang the trap and drank from the dead man's throat. And if we drank too much, well, the thirst needs a place to go. Hell, I know you could call me sentimental, the resentment's here to split me up the middle. I get open-hearted, open-hearted. Hell, I know you could call me sentimental, the resentment's here to split me up the middle. I get open-hearted, 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 open-hearted. Of neglect and a world of hurt, where we could watch all pretty little things just burn. When we were done with each other, we recovered, yeah, we took turns. And we were surgical and cruel like the God we serve. Hell, I know you could call me sentimental, the resentment's here. Split me up the middle, I get open-hearted, open-hearted. Hell, I know you could call me sentimental, the resentment's needed. Split me up the middle, I get open-hearted, 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 open-hearted.
Sentimental, world debut here on Hell or High Water with JUAN ALBAN, an outtake from his record, 2022 record, Resentments Central, that you can pick up on his socials, JUAN ALBAN on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can jump onto the waterfrontrecords.com website and type into the catalogue JUAN ALBAN and it'll come up and you can pick it up on his new record on vinyl and cassette. I love the fact that you put it out on cassette, man. I love cassette.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same. I think I was talking to you off air. It's like the first, physical kind of medium I ever had as a kid. I remember getting the A Different Light by the Bengals and what's that record, Man of Colours by Icehouse on cassette.
Yep.
So it was important to put it out on cassette. Not many people bought it, but it's an indulgence.
Absolutely. Why not? I'm going to put mine on cassette too.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. We're running out of time here, ladies and gentlemen, and I wanted to give Juan the opportunity to do a little bit of radio rage on here, which we haven't done for a while. Get an artist to come in, play some of their tunes, have a bit of a chat about them, but also play some songs that were kind of influential on the record, or just songs that they really love. And Juan's given me a couple here. I'm hoping that we can get through most of them before the end of the program. And the first one that we have is Paul Simon, Long Long Day. Why this song, mate? What is this? What's it about this song that you love?
Well, when at the end of the year you get like the streaming service you're with will give you your most played songs of the year. So this was my most played song of last year.
Wow.
I don't know what that says about me or how I'm feeling, but Long Long Day was the song that I turned to last year to get me through. If I had to pick one songwriter to listen to for the rest of my life, it would be Paul Simon. I just love his music.
Really?
Yeah, a genius that walks amongst us, and I don't know, I just love his music. I love that he's kind of got this, I think, a gentle voice, do you know what I mean? But to me, there's no better songwriter than Paul Simon. You can take your Lennons, you can take all those people, but for me, it's Paul Simon. Yep.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to have to listen to more Paul Simon, man.